Texas Tech in the future top 10 over Oklahoma and Alabama? Come on. It's Big Monday on Rise and Shine College Football, and we're starting with the mess in Lubbock. The Big 12 may have to decide what happens with Texas Tech if they play Brendan Sorsby. And somehow, instead of letting the process play out, Tech officials and Cody Campbell just keep on talking. Then Chris Mason of Sooners 360 joins us to talk about another big recruiting weekend for the Oklahoma Sooners. And yes, we're getting into the future college football rankings because leaving out Oklahoma, Alabama, Michigan, Florida, and even USC while putting Texas Tech in the top 10, well, that's absolutely hilarious. Let's ride.
Little dumbass.
Good morning, and welcome back to Rise and Shine College Football's Big Monday. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss a moment of Hall of Fame college football. Welcome into the show, everybody. Get rid of that. We're just going to talk about couple of different things. Obviously, welcome in. Let me know that you guys can see it because with everything that just happened, I don't know what the hell was just going on with this stream stuff. Let me know that you are hearing me, seeing me. Everything's good here. Want to make sure we're all good to go. Cool. Say yes, say no. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Somebody got to say 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, welcome in. I'm sure somebody will say something. Looks good. Thank you. Crimson X360, Sooners for Life, Ben G, Liberty. Hey, what's up there, Jen? Brandon Snake, Sooners for Life, 47 straight. And of course, True Okie, my guy. What's up, folks? What's up? Welcome into the show. Good to see everybody on this big Monday. We're going to have Chris Mason coming in here to talk a little bit about, obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the pickups that the Oklahoma Sooners got in recruiting this weekend and to kind of work that into what we saw from Josh Pate and J.D. PicKell about the future, what they are projecting the future top 10 teams in the country for the next 3 to 5 years. But, hey, we're going to start it off in Lubbock, where Texas Tech has somehow turned a quarterback eligibility controversy into a full-blown Big 12 governance crisis. It's just kooky, crazy, everything. Look, apparently this morning or sometime today, the Big 12 will be holding a meeting of its athletic directors, conference presidents, and possibly deciding on whether or not they're going to be sanctioning Texas Tech if and when they were to play Brendan Sorsby in the regular season for after he was, banned from college football from the NCAA. This is obviously 2 weeks almost after, it was 1 week ago, just that we had 1 week ago today that you saw a judge out of Fort Worth. We know Texas Tech fans. He was from Fort Worth, but he does have connections to Texas Tech. Let's not get it twisted. But out of Fort Worth that talked about that it would be irreparable harm for Brendan Sorsby to not be eligible and play with his football team this year, going against it, granting the temporary injunction. The entire college football world has exploded about it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never, ever seen anything like it where you have the rest of the college football country that never agrees on anything else, agreeing on this one thing that he should not play one single down of college football ever again. Yet and still, Texas Tech, Cody, Campbell especially, they're doing their best job of gaslighting the entire country. They, deflecting everything, talking about how it's all about, to them, it's all about his mental health and doing what's right for the kid. Then they've pushed it to, well, we haven't ever said that we're just gonna, we're gonna play him for sure. We'll see how his mental health is or whatever. Well, that's because they're getting heat. But if they weren't going to play him, why would the hell would they sue the Big 12, which, they have the Attorney General from Texas talking about suing the Big 12 if they were to move, the other 15 conference members were to decide to sanction them, forfeit games if he plays, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, you have that amazing roundtable discussion of the president, the athletic director, Joey McGuire, assistant athletic director. I mean, you had a group of like 5 people talking for 22 minutes, just basically more gaslighting. But the only one that wasn't there was Cody Campbell. He, of course, has been saying the whole past week whenever he talked that the only reason that people didn't want him to play was because they're worried about Brendan Sorsby. They're worried about Texas Tech, and they are, upsetting the apple cart, if you will, in college football, messing with the blue bloods. What a joke, right? I feel like it's crazy. The biggest mistake, to me, Texas Tech's biggest mistake may not have been pursuing Sorsby or even fighting for his eligibility necessarily, right? The mistake was letting Cody Campbell and those Tech officials turn the issue into a public relations just masterclass in freaking screwing it up. Just completely screwing it up, folks. The one thing if you've studied PR in any way, shape, or form, the one thing most and first is that sometimes it's better to not say a damn thing. They keep on talking. They never shut up. And their credibility goes further and further out the window every time they open their mouth because they continue saying stupid shit like, well, he didn't murder anybody. It wasn't like what happened at Penn State. Come on, folks. Come on. The fact that he even brought that up is hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, good. Penn State Sports Talk's in here to say something stupid. Go ahead, bud. Go ahead. Get it all out. Get it all out. It's becoming about riding and dying with Cody Campbell because he is the daddy writing checks. No doubt. No doubt. But it was 20 minutes of them saying nothing that we didn't already know. And basically, you know what? Have you ever heard the saying, doth protest too much? The more they talk, the less people agree with them. And the more people believe that, to me, I don't know that I believe at all that Brendan Sorsby has an actual addiction problem or a mental health issue. Maybe he does. But, I mean, how do we know? And the more this goes on, the other thing is that, looking at what Tom Mars, which is another one of these attorneys that's been killing the NCAA over the past couple of years, he was actually the attorney for Trinidad Chambliss there in whenever I was there in Mississippi for his injunction hearing on his eligibility. He's been saying all week that basically there's nothing that the Big 12 or that Cody Campbell and Tech can do if the Big 12 moves to do this. And furthermore, if they do sue the Big 12, it's written in Texas law. I've seen it. It is written in the Texas law that courts in the state of Texas are not allowed to overrule private companies' decisions, especially if they're going by their own bylaws, which they are. If they are to move to do this, they would be going by their own bylaws. Well, then people say stupid stuff like, well, what about if, they haven't done anything yet. He hasn't played a single snap yet. Well, that doesn't matter. You're making sure that you're trying to make sure that he can. They're going to try to make sure that he can't. The second that you make him eligible and allow him to play, then they can move to sanction you. And if they don't, I would tell you that the CFP better get in line and do it next. Somebody has to make this go away. Somebody's got to make this go away. But Tech has made itself the story. They're the more that they talk, the more the focus shifts from Sorsby's quote situation or his mental health problem to the arrogance of the institution around him. If they play Sorsby, I mean, Tech may have limited choices in the matter. I heard people like John Kurtz last night was talking about, I wouldn't do anything if I'm the Big 12. This is a K-State fan, by the way, saying that he would just let it go because you don't need to have all this infighting between the conference. Listen, there's one side, which is Texas Tech, and the other 15 as far as what it sounds like. I thought it was crazy that you would say that as a fan of K-State. And even if you are a Big 12 homer, which he is, and he roots for the Big 12 and wants the Big 12 to survive, I don't even think this is about. I think that Big 12 survival depends on you getting this shit right. It is. And whatever Tech thinks that they've done, they've screwed up their chances. If there is, I think that when it comes time for them to, if they do decide to grow these conferences, the big conferences, bringing in some ACC schools, possibly some Big 12 schools into the SEC and Big 10, you think they want to deal with Texas Tech and their crap? I don't. I think it'd be crazy. Yeah, and that's the other thing about it. He's got one win in November in 3 years as a starter. Why would you even, that's the other thing. I've been saying this. I was talking the other day to Bishop, and I was like, I wonder how the Tech fans are going to act if he comes in and plays as bad as he has. What if they lose that Houston game? What if he's bad in it? Even if he's good, even if he's decent, and they lose that Houston game, the narrative will flip. The fans will lose their shit, and we'll find out how behind him they really are. But I don't think it's going to get to that. I really don't. I would tell you that I'd be surprised if he plays a single down for Texas Tech. Yeah. The stretch and temptation of college football do wonders for that addiction. Exactly. Yeah, Greg. Always self-sabotage, right? Always reactive, never proactive. Even, and I don't know, I thought that Brett Yormark was a little bit different. He hasn't been impressing me the last couple of years, with just rolling over and allowing the Big Ten and SEC to have full control over the college football playoff, not moving to call their bluff until after, once they already controlled it all and they don't really need the vote of the ACC or the ACC or the Big 12. Now they complain and bitch about every little thing like it matters. Right? It's just been crazy. Maybe. Yeah. How do we know that LSU didn't just vet him a little better? How do we know that maybe they didn't already find that out? Because it's been said, people keep forgetting about this, but before it took him 3 weeks to make the decision to go to rehab after they had already sent the notice of allegations to Tech. This was all contrived. Yeah, it's Texas's fault. Yeah. It's Texas's fault. Always. Any blue blood would have walked in. They have options. Right. Think about the guy that went to Ohio State that, back in the day, what's his name? Sliceberger or Slicer or something like that. The guy, the first round pick. Ohio State, not only did they not support him, they basically turned over information to the federal government to have him investigated, and he's been in prison his whole life. Off and on, obviously. Not just because of that. But, crazy stuff. Speaking of private, that dumb bill by Cruz really trying to enforce that conferences can't expand. That's not going to, look, I know everybody thinks that it's going to go and he's got all the votes or whatever like that. There's going to be enough people that support the Big Ten and the SEC, senators and all, that will shut this thing down if they don't make the changes that Sankey told them to make. I guarantee you that. But here's the things that possibly could happen today during this meeting. I think we'll find something out, but possible penalties to frame, there could be forfeits if they play him. Championship game ineligibility, obviously that would go along with forfeits. Financial sanctions, they can certainly do that. Conference discipline tied to the bylaws. Scheduling or participation disputes from other members, that you've even heard other states saying that they would move to not allow him to play in their state. So those home games, and you heard the Oklahoma AG saying that he'll do anything he can to help if they decide to sue the Big 12, if Tech does. He's got to think about Oklahoma State in that deal. So something's going to happen. I think that what's most likely to happen is they're probably going to come to a vote and let them know what they think. And it may not be announced to us right away, but it's probably going to get to the point that it's untenable for Tech. And they're going to realize that they can't play this kid. They can't do it. Whether Hammond's ready or not, they can't do it. They need to play their backups, do whatever they got to do in that situation, and go from there. That's what I feel like will probably end up happening. This is one of those things that I don't feel like it's going away unless the Big 12 was just folds on this whole deal because they think that they're the only team that can go and do what needs to happen for the Big 12 to, quote, survive or whatever, which would be the worst decision ever. I just don't see it. Then again, they'll do it and blame it on Greg Sankey. You know what I mean? Who's to say? Oh, man. Just crazy stuff, though, man. Just crazy stuff. Well, it doesn't look like we got into the Facebook stuff. Kid isn't that good in the first place. This much hubbub over supposed talent, such as Sorsby, is mystifying. That's what I'm saying. And here's the deal. Listen, it's already backfiring so bad on Tech, right? This is not a good look for them. I think that they've ruined if they were to stop today or he was to stop today and leave and just decide, hey, you know what? He's got till the 22nd. He's still got 7 days to decide to go into the supplemental draft instead. If that was to happen, then maybe, this will all die down at some point. But the longer this goes on and the more people get involved in it, the worse this is going to get for Tech, and probably for him too. How many NFL franchises do you think want to deal with this shit? A kid that, he might sue us if we don't play him. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing. This is, even if they were to uphold, if they don't decide to do anything about it and they let it end up going to where it goes, when this gets to actual court, because there's no way that you can just let him play and then not still have the court case, because you would have to still have the court case and retroactively declare him ineligible again and all that stuff, and just so that you could keep whatever. And so at the end of the day, I know that they're saying that you can't come back and retroactively punish them, but they have to. The rule of law, and that's in the NCAA bylaws as well, the rule of restitution. This is not ever going to go good for them. That's what I'm saying. The best thing that they can do is shut up and stop. Shut up and stop. But let me know what you guys think. Do you believe that? What do you think is going to happen today? Do you think that the Big 12 is going to step up and they're going to force, Brett Yormark and the rest of the league to protect the league and the rest of the members of the league? Or do you think they're going to let Tech get away with this? Bad for Taco Tech. Dude, I'll tell you this. Like I said, I looked it up. He was like 11 of 24 or 25, something like that, for like 68 yards against Nebraska last year. 0-4 in the month of November. 0-4 in the month of November. It's kooky stuff, man. We'll get back into that here in just a few minutes. Right now, we're going to bring in my guy from Sooners 360. Mr. Mason. Chris Mason, Sooners 360. What's up, my guy? How are we doing, sir?
Doing good. Busy week, busy weekend.
Busy weekend. Man, we hadn't gotten a chance to really talk about too much of it yet, but obviously another big week for Oklahoma, bringing some other guys into the fold. Talk to us about what we saw there, and then we'll get into some of this talk about it's crazy to me because of where they're recruiting, where they've been recruiting, and the upward trajectory of Oklahoma, where that nobody's really paying much attention to that in the national media space and stuff like that. You've got guys like Josh Pate and J.D. PicKell that don't have them in their top 10 programs of the next 3 to 5 years, but they got Texas Tech in there, even with all the shit that's going on, right?
Well, I'm both J.D. and Josh Pate are putting OU like in their top 10 this year. So it seems a little inconsistent when you look at what they're recruiting, looking how well they've done in the transfer portal since Jim Nagy came in, and since that operation seems to be humming, and OU's doing so well in 2027 recruiting, that it would just seem like OU is trending up. So it is a little, it's a little inconsistent. It's a little strange to me, but if we want to continue on that topic and flesh it out just a little bit, I mean, I guess the only thing I could really think about from that, Jason, is that they're unsure about OU's QB development pipeline and what's going on with Arbuckle and the offense and the offensive scheme overall there. Maybe they're waiting for a year of progress from that.
We can get into that a little bit here in a few minutes. But just to answer that real quick, I would tell you what about the quarterback stuff that goes on at Texas Tech?
Well, the other teams, Miami hasn't developed a quarterback, at all either. We'll see. But yeah. I mean, it's strange if you want to go into that a little deeper. It's a strange. From my recruiting viewpoint, it doesn't make any sense at all. So,
real quick, Charles Crows Fly High. Thank you, my guy. $50 super chat. Boomer freaking Sooner. Hey, man.
Way to go, Charles Crow.
Hey, yeah, we're gonna play this. Nice. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. You are the man. Boomer freaking Sooner indeed. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Nice stuff. Nice. All right. How did the douchebag billionaire like Cody Campbell become our overlords, or why are we continuing to allow it? Fight the power. Hey, listen, before we get into that, today they are having, the reason I brought it back up, I mean, it's not something I want to continue talking about. It's obviously one of the big things going on in the sport, but the Big 12 is meeting today and possibly going to be doling out some repercussions for if and when they do decide to play Brendan Sorsby. And obviously, it's been a shit show of PR, a PR nightmare if you're Texas Tech, but they just don't shut up.
Well, you saw the Big 12 filed today, right, in Dallas. They just did that. Did you see that news? It just came over the wire that the Big 12 basically filing an injunction in Dallas, or filing paperwork in Dallas to say against Texas Tech and the Texas AG, claiming that they can't follow their due process and their bylaws and punish Texas Tech. That just came over the wire.
Okay, I'm pulling it up, but I'll pull it up and we'll get back into it. But that's
K. Chris sent it to me. Our we talked a little legal stuff last night at the end of our recruiting show. So it's exactly what K. Chris was talking about last night on our show. So I'm gonna
read then straight from on 3. The Brendan Sorsby saga has taken another dramatic turn. According to Ross Dellinger, the Big 12 filed a 47-page complaint Monday against Texas Tech. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and multiple university officials, all in an effort to preserve the conference's authority to sanction member institutions. The filing, which was submitted in the Northern District of Texas, seeks declaratory judgment and a preliminary injunction that would allow the Big 12 to enforce its bylaws regarding Texas Tech's intention to play the quarterback during the 26th season. Notably, the conference is not seeking financial damages and is not attempting to overturn the Texas court ruling that granted Sorsby eligibility. Instead, they're asking a federal judge to allow the league to discipline Tech without interference from Paxton's office. According to Dellinger, the lawsuit was triggered in part by the letter sent by Paxton last week. The Attorney General warned the conference that sanctions against Texas Tech would constitute antitrust violations and threaten potential legal action. This was something that I talked about the other day, that Tom Mars, who's another prominent attorney who's taken on the NCAA and a lot of this kind of stuff in these eligibility cases. He was Trinidad Chambliss's attorney, by the way. He showed the Texas law that says Texas courts are not allowed to overrule
private associations bylaws.
Private association rulings, right? Unless they're going against their own bylaws. This would not go against their own bylaws. So it figures that. And of course, we're hearing a lot of stuff about Paxton being, corrupt and, being impeached. And of course, Cody Campbell's been in his pocket. He's one of the guys that's been, adding to his campaign fund as he's running again here. But I don't know. According to Dellinger, let's see. The complaint also revealed that Big 12 officials, presidents, and athletic directors have urged Texas Tech not to play Sorsby, though the school has reportedly refused. So all this stuff that you Tech fans are saying, oh, he hasn't even played. We haven't done anything wrong. He hasn't played. They haven't even said they're going to play him. Okay. Why are they refusing then? If a vote were to occur, however, the filing states some of the potential sanctions on the board could consider under the bylaws include monetary sanctions and or a ban on competing in the Big 12 championship game. Conference leaders were scheduled to meet Monday. However, a decision on sanctions is still not expected immediately. But there is a considerable concern that allowing Sorsby to compete could create reputational harm and irreparable damage to the public and member trust in the integrity of the league competitions, according to the filing. In an industry that rarely agrees on anything, there is finally an issue that everyone seems to agree on other than Texas Tech and the Attorney General. Universities should not field players who have bet on their own team's games in college athletics, the complaint states. Moreover, Sorsby was ruled permanently ineligible by the NCAA after admitting to wagering on Indiana football games during his time with the Hoosiers. Court documents indicate he made roughly $90,000 in impermissible wagers throughout his college career and even continued betting after transferring to Texas Tech. After the NCAA launched this investigation, Sorsby entered treatment, of course. The Big 12's complaint lists that Texas Tech University System Chancellor Brandon Creighton, President Lawrence Chovanec, Athletic Director Kirby Hoka, and Paxton as defendants. The threat that gambling poses to the integrity of athletic competition has been understood and has been borne out by scandal for over a century, the complaint reads. That history informs the conference's values and governance practices and explains why these values are non-negotiable. With the NCAA appeal still pending and the Big 12 now taking legal action against one of its own members, the Sorsby case continues to reshape the landscape of college athletics. Time will tell what the end game is, but it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. I think that this is one of those things that feels like, I was just saying, it feels like to me, Texas Tech they need to decide to punt, don't you think?
Well, if you're the Big 12, and we were, Jason, I've talked about this offline a little bit, is the concern if you're the Big 12 has to be that the SEC and the Big 10 will use this as a lever point to break away. That they'll basically say, since the NCAA cannot enforce any rules, we need to break away and and create our own organization, our own sort of league with franchise rules, that are enforceable, right? The example I sort of threw out there is, the same way the NBA had the authority to basically force the Clippers to get rid of Donald Sterling, right? That what he was doing was so painful and so detrimental to the league that they had to do that. The same way the NFL basically forced the Daniel Snyder to sell the what was the Redskins. So
Right.
this is from a certain perspective. If you're viewing college football teams as franchises, which I think we all agree is probably the way they should be going with the CBA with their union. If you're the SEC and the Big Ten, maybe you didn't have the juice behind you from presidents and some chancellors of school systems, but this gives you the lever to do this, to say, well, and I'm not looking to pitch a fight here, but I'm just taking this to the extreme example. So if Texas Tech isn't going to follow this rule, what's to stop them from adding some semi-pro players in the middle of the season?
Right. Well, and this goes to show that some of this, there's got to be collective bargaining of some kind to where you can get a handle on this, and we stop going to court over every little thing.
It has to be. You've got to have some arbitration in the CBA.
Absolutely.
You and I talked about this offline to ad nauseum, but it's just, and maybe maybe if you're the Big 12, you don't want to get cut out of the Big 10 and the SEC having a CBA with their players and just going their own way and saying,
Sure.
look, we're just going to go out. I mean, since the NCAA can't enforce anything, we know we have to enforce something. We know we want a salary cap. We know we want a CBA, sure. and the rest of the NCAA doesn't want that. But we're reaching a frustration point and this is a clear example of this. We don't want to play a team that has a player that's like this. So from that perspective, I think the biggest thing here is I watched Brendan Sorsby play last year, a couple of games. The juice is not worth the squeeze here. It's just not. I mean, muddle through your 2 games with your backups against the bad opponents and get Will Hammond back and play your season. This is
I've been saying the same thing. Like, Will Hammond I thought he was pretty damn good. He looked a lot better than what we saw out of Baron Morton last year. But you realize that as a passer, Baron Morton was only 1 spot behind Brendan Sorsby last year.
Well, yeah, I
don't understand what, this is the hill you're going to die on?
This isn't Cam Newton.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Now, they may be trying to save their money, but it's just like Neilio said here, the worst thing for Tech, the continued cloud that will always hover over their entire athletic department. It's not that everything that they've done is everything that you should, it's the first thing in PR is sometimes shut the fuck up.
Oh, yeah. Their tone deafness on this issue from their leadership has been has been just mind
accountability is gone, and that's what I think, that people can get over certain things. There's some people that don't get over stuff, and but instead of coming back and throwing shade at everybody else who's ever had a player that had a problem of any kind, that off the field with the law, blah 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 blah, served whatever sentences they served and everything else like they're doing. They should have just been quiet about it and said, look, we're going to go by the rules. If they said anything, it should have been like, look, they were granted the injunction. We didn't file it, but we're going to go by the law here and go by the rules that are in place. Fix the rules. If they just say that, then, people would have still been pissed off.
And the thing
at least you're not just sitting here gaslighting the shit out of everybody and making it like you're in the right here. And by the way, stop with the whole, we're worried about his health stuff. You and I talked about this ad nauseum. Give me a fucking break about that one. Because that's not what you're in this for. And that story that I just read kind of outlined that. They've been urging Texas Tech to back down with this and not take it any further. And they're like, no, we're going to play him.
And the thing about it is, the one guy who I feel sorry for, but slightly don't feel sorry for, is Kirby Hocutt. He is a longtime athletic director. He is an NCAA institutional guy. Every rule that Tech is ignoring, Hocutt, like Joe C., they're buddies. They are institutional ADs for the last 25 years. Every gambling rule, Kirby Hocutt has sat in committees saying, this is wrong. And now he's like,
did you notice how the president, when they asked him the question about that, they kind of outlined how people were talking about how they had voted for this and all that.
Yes.
And he needed a second take. Like, you could tell that they clipped it and he came back and like re-answered it a second time.
And Kirby Hocutt looks like not to use I don't want to trigger anybody, but he looks like, those poor, American flyers during the Vietnam War who were forced to read statements against the U.S. with a gun, with a gun to their head. I mean, Kirby Hocutt clearly doesn't want to say any of this, but he's not running the asylum any longer. They have a billionaire donor who is functionally their athletic director, university president, and
he's made it look worse and worse too.
Oh, he does. Everything he says makes everything worse. And
all these podcasts, his op-ed in USA Today, it was just a bunch of blather and bullshit talking about how everybody's afraid of him. Why? Why do you believe anybody? Nobody's afraid of Texas Tech. Why would you even believe that?
I don't know, but I just don't. I think the biggest thing is really it's Brendan Sorsby. I mean, you overpaid for him. He's okay, maybe you think he's a great quarterback, but he's not established anything at all that would tell you that you're looking at a Cam Newton guy who can lead you to, and you don't have a bad schedule. You can get through this schedule with the other pieces you've picked up in the portal and some of the high school talent you're starting to accumulate. The Big 12 schedule is wide open. It's not like they're playing.
And they have an easy schedule. It's
and
not
they have
like
an easy version of it.
The whole thing. Like, if you really believe in your roster and your coaching staff and everything else, hey man, you know what? This is the nature of the beast in the NIL and in the NFL too. Sometimes you pay for, you don't get what you pay for.
Look at South Carolina, and this is a bad example, but just South Carolina. Number one portal acquisition is a left tackle, I think. They thought was going to solidify their O-line. Blew his knee out or badly hurt his knee playing, a pickup basketball game. And now, I mean, they paid like $2-3 million for this kid. And now he may not play, and their offensive line looks like it's in disarray again. Shit happens to the acquisitions you pick up. Injuries happen to football teams. I mean, to look at the big, Texas A&M lost probably an All-American leader on their team during spring ball. Look at Tennessee's had to separate from their number one guy, Corey Coleman, that they picked up in the portal because of some weird, I don't know what's going on there, but they've suspended him, removed him from the team, and are moving forward. This happens all the time. This Tech just needs to move on. This isn't, there are hills you should die on. This is not one of them.
No. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that, like, look, and even if what Benji's talking about, if it wouldn't matter if it was Vince Young or Jackson Arnold or whoever it may be, you can't do this.
This is the wrong fight. It's the
wrong hill to die on. You know what? There's a lot of things that you can say they've got wrong for a long time, and you'd be right. And they're, the NCAA being not having consistency on its rulings. I'm with you on all of that. There's rarely a time that you'd hear me arguing for the NCAA. In this case, the only thing that you can do is find a way to get them to get this guy off the field, to not allow him on it. Because if you don't, and for the sake of Texas Tech itself, I'm going to say this as somebody who covered the Big 12 for an awful long time as a reporter, don't do it. I covered Texas Tech for 7 years at different newspapers.
You're a scrappy underdog story that was getting national attention. You don't jump from that to being Darth Vader. I mean, you don't. You had a brand and you had a story. Stick with it. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
were making progress. Your recruiting class is good. You've picked up some good players. I don't think
Sure. No, they're still ranked in the top 5 right now of recruiting.
I don't think they'll stay there, and I think
don't
they're gonna
either.
lose. I think they're gonna lose a couple of kids, just because, just the nature of recruiting. Everybody does. That's how it goes. But you've got a chance to. You've got a chance to again. And if you had taken the high ground instead of being a pariah, people would be lauding you, despite the fact you're paying NIL money.
Oh,
There are limits
listen,
to Texas. There are limits to what
if they
Texas
did, if they'd have just said no,
We
and
feel
they'd have told him up, if they'd have told
front.
him up front that, you know what, you can do that, but we're not gonna have you play for us. We'll support you. We'll even pay you whatever. You're not gonna play for us. I would stop with this injunction. You're not gonna play. If they'd have done that or pushed him towards the NFL, whatever, and then you could have sat back and been like, whatever happens, it's not our fault, right?
Yeah.
And we did the right thing here because we care about the sport, about the health of the sport, and the public confidence in the outcomes of this sport more than we care about ourselves necessarily winning this year. We believe that he would have helped us, and we've got an injured quarterback that we would have played otherwise. But we can't do this. This is about more than just winning football games, and it is about more than just winning football games.
Yeah,
And all this talk about everybody else in the country would have done this. That's not true.
no.
That's not true.
Other people haven't done this. Iowa
What was the guy's name from Ohio State? Schlesinger, whatever.
Iowa State, and
No,
Iowa.
Ohio State back in the day, way back in the day when the gambler got
Art Schlichter, I think it was. his name.
Sleetster. That's right. That's right.
Way back. And then you've got everybody. I mean, this has been an established. I mean, everyone acts like, just apps and all that. That all now gambling's a problem. It hasn't. I mean,
Look at Hunter Deckers.
Well, I mean, and go way back. We've had gambling scandals, mostly in hoops, to be honest, but it still fits. Slightly easier to shave points in basketball than football, just because of your control of the game and from that aspect. So overall, I just don't. I don't know what understand. I don't understand why Tech is dying on this hill. I don't understand. I think Cody Campbell's dug in with how much he paid Sorsby, and nobody else in Texas Tech has the authority or the stones to say, shut up.
They don't want to lose their T-Boone Pickens, right?
Shut up, sit down, and Kirby Hocutt needs to say, shut up.
Not only is he their big booster, he's also the president of the board.
Yeah, exactly. But Kobe Hocutt.
I mean, they've given him more power than the president of the university has.
If I was Kirby Hocutt, I'd resign tomorrow.
Oh man, me too. Matador, the judges from Fort Worth. Yes, we know that. The first judge recused himself because he didn't want to screw up his deal. But I'm going to tell you this. Don't act like this guy doesn't have connections to Texas Tech, because he does. And it doesn't matter where he's from. This is a bad decision on his part.
I've been attacked by almost everybody. I mean,
facts matter, he says. Come on, bro. Facts do matter. The facts are, yes, he went to Houston and UT. We know that. But he also has connections to Texas Tech in his family. Well, I think it's a daughter of his went to Texas Tech.
This is dig up whatever judge you want. Whatever the judge made a terrible ruling, and he exposed his ruling a little bit by imposing a 2-game suspension, according to our top legal mind on our podcast, on our live stream trio. So sure. I think we'll see what the Big 12 is able to get through, and and the CFP can still say, we're not going to consider any game. We're not going to consider Texas Tech if they play Sorsby in any games. That's still possible, and good luck overturning that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
And I think that
How do you?
Hammer says that if you're McGuire, wouldn't you be embarrassed? Is basically saying Campbell runs the team. Well, I think that I've noticed it in the past that it feels to me like everybody's a little. They know they have to kind of kiss his ass, but I don't think that Cody Campbell has. There's no way that Joey McGuire likes the fact that he's always speaking for the program.
No, I mean,
there's no way you can like that as the head coach.
Have you ever
or the AD?
Have you ever heard the Headington family, which is this close to Cody Campbell money that really backs OU? Have you ever heard them make a public announcement outside of a press statement, outside of a PR release that went directly through our AD office?
No.
Right. I mean, you don't. So this is.
No.
And
I mean,
it would be one thing if
there's a lot of billionaires that are boosters for Oklahoma. They're not, and they've got their certain levels of power. We all know that.
Yeah, but they don't
But
show
it's
their
not
ass
public,
like
and they
this.
don't talk about it.
Yeah. And the other embarrassing thing is this is a state school. What are you doing? If this was Baylor, I'd be like, all right, maybe I can understand this.
No.
It's a private institution. If it's a private institution, I'd be like, all right, okay, all right. You're not a land grant state university with tax funds or whatever, as part of all this. So okay,
Right.
all right, okay. But this is a state school. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That you have
I just feel like in the end, before this is all said and done, I would tell you I'll be blown away if the kid ever makes it onto the field. In fact, I'd be surprised if they don't push him to the NFL in the next couple of weeks.
And
within the next week. I think they kind of have to. You've got to cut your losses here.
And this is so serious an issue. I'm not sure what the NFL is going to do with him. I mean, really, the NFL has clearly stated the supplemental draft is not a process for you to avoid NCAA penalties. The NFL will review what you've done and issue something. So I think the NFL's like, go to a real rehab process, come back to us in a year. I can see the NFL saying that. We don't want you anywhere near our product until you're sober 365 days. Show us a 1-year chip.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. He could have, you know what? This is something that I've seen this around different places. Brendan Sorsby could have really made himself, he could have made it clear that he cares more or cares about anybody but himself by putting a stop to this himself before. Obviously, he wants to keep his money, but he could have just said, look, I'm going to go ahead and go. This is not going to work. This isn't working out. I mean, because here's the thing. He's in a hopeless situation too. He's going to have to play like, vintage Tom Brady here for this to work out for him. And it still won't work out for him. No matter what happens, this is going to look bad on him from here on out. But if he doesn't play very well, if they did play him and he plays like shit, and again, I'll remind everybody that he's 1-11 in November. And he had 60 yards against a shitty Nebraska team that they lost to last year.
I get that your quarterback was hurt. Texas Tech is acting like you don't lose players in the offseason for strange reasons. And that impacts the football team. It freaking happens. OU could have found itself in a situation of something off-season had happened to John Mateer, in a weird way or something. And OU would be faced in the same boat. I know you would have to roll forward with whatever we have at quarterback.
Well, that's the other thing. There's people talking about and we should bring this up, but the Texas players that supposedly that are anonymous players, but there's some people are saying one of them might have been Arch Manning, but they're talking about them gambling but it should be noted that if they were gambling, it was small amounts that they found out about it. There was one of the players did leave, but none of the bets were on Texas or football at all.
I again,
So we're talking about, and then they bring up John Mateer for Oklahoma, acting like that. I mean, I've heard this in my comment section in the last few days. Stop it. Stop it.
Those were
John Mateer, that was a stupid joke, and it was stupid. Make no mistake. But they investigated John Mateer.
I cleared him.
At the NCAA and cleared him. This is admitted $90,000 worth and betting on your own team. It's not the same thing as either situation.
Yeah, it's I don't know. So you want to
Anyway, let's move on.
Let's
move on from it. We'll come back to some of this stuff. At the end of the day, I feel like it's crazy to think that this is a program on the rise and will continue to be on the rise because of this kind of stuff right here. Just because you've got a guy that's willing to cough up cash, look, it's clear what the culture is there. And that's not going to cut it with anybody. This is the one time. When is the last time you ever saw the entire rest of the country of college football that agreed on everything, that agreed on one thing? Never.
Not even like Reggie Bush having a free house and all that shit, right?
No. And because I didn't agree with any of that.
And that was clearly against the rules at the time, right? It was
clear,
and a USC coach was.
I would tell you that Oklahoma wouldn't have had Adrian Peterson and a lot of other guys if there wasn't some money being put under the table somewhere.
Well, again, we're not throwing shade here. This is the way the world works, but
not even get broken, and then there's this rule. But there's never been a time that everybody in the country, aside from of course Tech and this AG or whatever, that have said no. Not even like the Adidas money basketball scandal crap, right? You know, there were still people arguing, that it was just, well, this is just, So yeah, I don't think this is. It's bizarre. You have united a public against the NCAA in favor of the NCAA. And I didn't think that was possible. Especially against the NCAA. It's just nuts to me. That tells you how crazy this whole thing is. And it's not just, you can say what you want, man. At the end of the day, it's not about being afraid of you. It's about the integrity of the game. We're going to move on. Let's talk about this weekend, man. Obviously, you did a show last night on the Sooner Intel with K. Chris, but talk about the weekend that Oklahoma had and the offseason and recruiting season that OU is having this year. Obviously, trending towards at least top 5 recruiting class, it would sound like to me, but you could end up in the top two. But what do you talk about this weekend?
Yeah, they had a second big official visit weekend, but OU has so many verbal commits, so there were more verbal commits there than uncommitted guys. But there are 5 guys that were uncommitted that visited. Jackson Lawler from Amarillo, Texas, offensive lineman, plays defensive tackle right now. Primarily, OU is going to move him to offensive line. He earned an offer at OU's summer camp event, one of the summer camp events. He verbally committed on Sunday. They also brought in Milan Green, a wide receiver from St. Louis, who also picked up a scholarship offer or an offer by coming into the OU camp event, just dominated. And he verbally committed. So OU replaced one of the wide receiver spots they lost last week when Damari Dezern and Trevon Hall decommitted. So they added back another wide receiver. He's very similar to Damari Dezern in terms of skill set and talent level. There's no junior film on him because he was ineligible because of a Missouri high school eligibility rule. He changed schools, so he couldn't play as a junior. So there are teams that follow rules, and rules and consequences do exist for some people to get that dig in. But his sophomore film, Jason's, is excellent. He's a serious speed guy. He was at an Under Armour event, according to Brandon Drum, who did a podcast yesterday, and said that at that event he was laser timed at 4.37. So he's routinely under 4.4. When you watch him on film, some guys who runs 4.3s don't look that fast in pads. This kid is fast in pads. So he's also a good special teams returner guy. So that's the two pickups, and then they got three guys coming out of the weekend who we're still waiting on answers for. The first one is Case Alexander, the linebacker from Washington, Oklahoma. OU legacy. His dad was Steven Alexander, and if you're
Yeah.
not old enough to remember, Steven Alexander was an old Big 12 tight end on some really bad Blake teams. If he had been a Bob Stoops on a Bob Stoops team, he would have been an All-American tight end, quite probably. He was that talented. He was just on bad Gibbs teams that were on probation, not on TV. That whole nonsense back in the early '90s for OU. So his brother is Cooper Alexander, who's a tight end who's followed the 30 players from Iowa State to Penn State. So it's down to Penn State and Oklahoma. It looked like Penn State had the lead because of the brother connection. I'd say it's 50-50 right now, generally speaking. I think OU, with the last official visit, might win this recruiting battle. I got a source saying that they think OU's going to win this. It's still kind of up in the air. But he's a four-star linebacker, top 150 player in the country by rivals. He would, if you added him to Cooper Witten and Tevin Epps, that's arguably the best linebacker class in the country. And then they've got two DBs that they're tracking. The first is Trenton Blaylock, who is Torrey Blaylock's brother. He's 6'2", 170, 180 pounds. He runs a 4. He has a 10.43 100-meter time confirmed, and he has routinely timed under 4.4 laser at camp events. And I got a clip of him where you could just see his in-game speed and see that it's legit. And he's probably going to decide the next day or two. I would say I think that's leaning OU's way. Texas really wants him. Ben G, who's been in here, he and I have been having that discussion on Recruit Intel over the last couple of weeks. Texas really likes him. And Vanderbilt, which seems like, you're like, well, what about Vandy? Well, Vandy's got some cachet in recruiting, and they do a good job evaluating players, as we see. So when you're talking about Vandy, it's not just, that's not a throwaway that it would be, or a joke as it would be 4 or 5 years ago. And then the last guy is Jaden Fields. He's from Hutto, Texas. OU wants him at safety. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He has 4.4 laser times or under at camp events. His film's really good. Brandon Hall badly wants him at safety. And Brandon Hall and safety recruiting is kind of, you don't second guess that at this point, not with the guys that he's been producing. So from that aspect, so he's got to go to TCU before he'll decide. And those are the 5 guys that were on campus. Obviously, OU had a bunch of commitments on campus. From that perspective, they had Cooper Hackett, Caden Penny, Keldred Ben, Luke Wilson. So they had a bunch of guys. So the big thing coming out of this is that OU's picked up a 6 offensive lineman to make it a big O-line class for the Sooners. And they've replaced, I think, basically done a 1-for-1 replacement at wide receiver by picking up this Milan Green guy, who I think with senior film will be a 4-star by most of the services. He's that talented. He's just a shade under 5'11". He's 180 pounds. And he, like I said, he runs a 4.37 and maybe faster than that sometimes. But OU had kind of had him in the waiting room because I think they knew that their other 2 wide receiver commits were a little shaky. So the moment they lost those guys, they got him on campus, got him a scholarship offer, and got him on an official visit where he committed. So, good job that. But OU overall, it's, things are moving kind of a little all over the place with the recruiting rankings because everyone's adding players and depending upon how you want to do all the rankings. But OU right now is 3 on Rivals and I think 3 on 247. So it's, they've got a good class. If they can add Bodie Sparrow and Yahila Wolfgram, it'll be even better. If they can add Case Alexander, that's another top 200 player. Wolfgram is now a top 100 player, basically. Bodie Sparrow is a top 100 player. So if you start adding those guys into the class and some of the guys that you have got verbals from, like Jacoby Dixon, the running back from Brenham, Texas, who everyone thinks is going to basically have a huge senior year and vault back up in the rankings. He was a top 50 guy his sophomore year, and then his junior year just kind of went haywire. He changed schools and things just never quite came together from that perspective. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that OU is going to end up with a top 5 class, maybe top 3, depending upon how everything else shakes out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The rankings are, like I said, the rankings are very much in flux because we still have a bunch of top players out there. It's like, for instance, Texas is OU's third on Rivals, and they're third on 247's own rankings. But if you do the composite rankings, they are third too. There, it's very close between them and Miami. Miami's had a surge. They got a couple of. They picked up a 5-star. Another 5-star. And OU, as you said, OU got hurt because Cooper Hackett, he hurt his shoulder, so he's not playing his senior year. And some of the sites are dropping his rankings from like 30 to 105, even though he's still 6'8", 285 pounds, moves like a power forward, and will be an elite offensive tackle in the college game. So he's still a 5-star. I just don't know why that is. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But OU at a minimum is going to end up probably with a top 5 class and could be slightly higher depending upon how the services end their rankings on some of the OU's guys. I mean, they just moved up Gabriel Osborne into a 5-star status. If the other services pick up on that, he could, that'll just help.
I saw they got him at number 16 in the country.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just talking about disagreements on math. OU's going to have a top 5 class. It's just where in that top 5 and where do they view these guys? Like, for instance, Rivals has Tevin Epps, like in the 200s, and he's in the top 50 with the 2 other services. And I think he's an elite kid, like a borderline 5-star kid. Same thing with Cooper Witten. They've dropped him a little bit, and I think he's really more a 5-star kind of kid as well. So, we're talking about
a lot of these guys. It seems like they've been kind of fluctuating back and forth between 4 and 5-star, depending on which ones they are. But like you said, on 247, Oklahoma's been number 1 because a lot of those guys are 5-stars, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Seneca Driver is a 5-star.
It doesn't really matter how they rank once they sign, like Dave said. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, Seneca Driver, if you watch his film, he's the number 1 or 2 tight end in the country. The other guy's Ahmad Hudson, who's going to LSU. And Colby's right. Texas could face this. Their number 1 kid they're probably going to pick up is Meredith, John Meredith, a cornerback from the Dallas area, who's really good, really good. Yep. But he just got declared ineligible if he doesn't play.
No, I saw that. He's the kid that
and he's going to.
I think he was at the same place that Samuel Mosigo came from, right? Cali County or something or Crowley, North Crowley or something.
He's at Crowley. I think Samuel Mosigo was somewhere else, but Crowley is big time. So I mean, it's like Crew Jones, as ESPN has him as the number 50 player in the nation, and the other 2 services, don't have him ranked anywhere near as high. And then you watch that kid on film, and you're like, holy
Listen,
crap.
At the end of the day, that's the whole thing. It's like, and that's where I was kind of headed with it. Was like whether they end up 5 stars or whatever. I mean, you start looking at some of these guys between Penny and, like you said, you've got these linemen that are there. The number 1 tight end in the country is in the fold. You know what I mean? And he's been the number 1 tight end in the country for a while. For the last couple of years. Big kid. I mean, everybody did that. Cooper Witten. I mean, you start talking about these kids, and then whether they end up 1 or 10 or whatever it is. I mean, I think that we've seen, and we've talked about this in the past, that we don't know. We're not sure where they're going to end up ranked. And maybe the rankings drop and some of that other stuff. But is this one of those things that kind of shows that, in my opinion, it is, but is it to you? Does this show that this is why that Oklahoma is for real in this right. They're going at
Right,
this
right. Yeah,
seriously,
I
right?
mean, you've got 12 guys that have a top 100 ranking out of their verbal commitments. I mean, from one service, okay, at least one service, and
Sure, sure.
you're
On
not,
top of that, you've got the evaluations of an
yeah.
NFL staff
And
of
the other, but the other point, when you're getting guys like Cooper Hackett, when you're getting guys like Taven Epps, who Texas wanted, USC wanted, Miami
sure.
wanted, when you're getting Keldred Ben, who Miami, Oregon, Texas all wanted, OU is not broke. OU is not spending an NIL. This whole imaginary story that OU is like some sister of the poor in recruiting is it's
Except that when they came out with those on three money ranking and what they've spent over the
yeah.
last however long that was, Oklahoma was number 3, weren't they?
Well, they were certainly in the top 5. They're certainly
Yeah.
in the top 10. So it's just funny from that perspective, Jason. But I like again. Um, well, Colby. Some stars
That's
go.
what we're trying to say right now.
We're saying. I'm telling you that I've watched all the film. I've watched the film of lots of guys. Do stars matter? They don't. They don't unmatter. But when you see players like when you see Taylor Wine, let's have a stars discussion with Texas real
Sure.
quick. So
Sure.
you guys signed Colton Vasek, stole him from OU, and OU had to settle for Taylor Wine.
Right.
Colton Vasek has done nothing at Texas, and maybe it's because of injuries. I don't know. But Taylor Wine has potential to be an All-American defensive end and a first-round draft pick.
He played like an All-American last year whenever your All-American got hurt.
So he played. So that's where stars don't matter, right? And then look at Owen Heineke. He's an unranked, unstarred lacrosse player who could be an old SEC linebacker for the Sooners. So do they matter? Sure. David Stone's a 5-star. That matters.
Sure.
Michael Fasusi's a 5-star. Yes, that matters. Does it matter?
Peyton Bowen.
Peyton
Same
Bowen's
thing.
a 5-star. That matters.
Sure.
But does it always matter? Is it always the way you can project, who's where? No. But, the services are going to have OU is probably a top 5, top 10 class, right? Some of the guys that they have commitments from, the services they're just wrong on. I watch Michael Davis's tape, and I know he should be a top 300, top 200 guy with the way he plays football. And he's going to be an absolute alpha for OU, and he's going to be great. So, same thing with Crew Jones. 2 of the services don't have Crew Jones ranked very highly. ESPN does. But I watch Crew Jones, all of his film, every camp event he's at. He's ragdolling top 100 offensive tackles left and right, just like Jake Krull last year, who Rivals thought was like a top 200 player. ESPN said he's a 5-star. And now he's on OU's campus, and everything we hear from our sources says he looks like a 5-star. So
Right.
it's
And then the point I'm trying to make, and I mean, again, in the grand scheme of things, no, they don't matter. The stars don't matter. The stars matter as far as like they matter to an extent because of how much money it costs to get them in there. I mean, you'd rather get a guy with 5-star talent and 3 stars because you get him at a better deal. But this is where the ability to identify talent is, and to identify talent that isn't necessarily showing up on everybody's recruiting board because they don't go to all these camps. Or
right.
they stop going to camps.
Because they've got offers. Because they've got offers. Why do they need to go to a camp? I mean, the fact of the matter, and I'm sure Colby and Benji will agree with me here. Texas has always recruited very well. The reason why Texas has had better records lately is because they've done a better job with development.
Have a better staff.
And have a better staff developing their players to a higher degree. I mean, and that's Colin Simmons, again, he's a 5-star from Duncanville. OU wanted him, LSU wanted him, but Texas
wanted him. Everybody wanted him,
and he's playing well. And it's a credit to Texas's defensive, the previous defensive staff at the very least. We'll see what happens this year from that. But overall, OU is doing well recruiting, and the recruiting services, for the most part, when OU picks up somebody, they're bumping them up. They're basically getting to the point where, they're like, oh, well, if Nagy and OU likes this guy, maybe we should take a second look at him and bump him up.
When you
So,
look at the measurables and the intangibles and everything else, the speed and things like that you're seeing from these guys, it makes sense why you would do it.
yeah, I mean, again, I mean, the clear example of that, Keldred Ben, offered by OU, verbally commits to OU. Even though he's playing at Montgomery, Texas, nobody else knew about him. His only other offer was something like Texas State. And now he's a top 100, top 5 running back in the country by one service. And you just watch his film, and he basically looks like Samaje Perine with maybe a little more long speed. I mean, that's the guy he looks like to me. Or he looks like Ramondre Stevenson. So I've just rattled off 2 guys who've been in the NFL for at least 6 years. So, and we're awesome running backs at Oklahoma. So I think overall OU's doing well. They've been helped by a strong in-state crop, 3 5-stars in-state that we haven't had in years. Although for 2028, I think we're already trending to have another 5-star in-state kid. And for 2029, I think there's 2 or 3 kids that could be top 50 5-stars from the state of Oklahoma. Jax Wilkinson, Jimmy Wilkinson's kid, is 6'7", 295.
Yeah.
and he's 2029, and he looks awesome, and he's picked up offers.
I saw that dude. I saw him with Brent. He's a monster.
And he's picking up offers from everybody. And, good luck, guys. He's gone to Norman. I mean, he has basically, Jimmy was Brent coached Jimmy. This is a Sterling Shepard kind of situation that I would be stunned. OU offered him. They are mentoring him. He is so much connections to the program.
Sure.
Guys like Tommy Harris are involved in his life since his dad has passed away. He's Brent basically is, for those that don't know the story, Bob Stoops hired Sterling Shepard's dad, who was a great Sooner in the 80s. His dad was, and then he passed away after he joined Bob's staff. So Sterling Shepard was basically adopted by that whole early Stoops staff, and then Sterling became a prospect, and it was pre-existing relationship on that. But that's what's going to happen with Jack. And Sterling was a baller. His dad was a great Sooner. So, and Jimmy Wilkinson was a baller for OU.
Absolutely.
Had 4 sacks against Texas in a game where we blew out the whole.
He did indeed. I was fixing to say, didn't he have like 4 sacks against UT that year?
So, but yeah, I think overall, it's a great class. It fills a lot of what OU's needs, and if they get Bodie Sparrow, they're basically, Jason, going to have like an alpha top 100 guy at every level of their defense.
Yeah.
So maybe 2 defensive ends that fit that category, 2 linebackers that fit that category, a cornerback that fits that category, and a safety. So basically, alphas, leaders, culture guys that all fit what OU wants to do. So, and then you're talking about OU having the worst tight end room in the SEC. It would have been the worst tight end room in the Big 12 or the ACC or the Big 10. I can't go much lower than that. Don't know. Can't speak for that. And OU signing the best, at a minimum, the number 2 tight end in the country. If you saw the kid when he visited, he's 6'7", 250. He's bigger than Jason Witten. I mean, he looks like basically
all kinds of skills, athletic as hell, moves very well, kind of moves like a receiver. You know what I mean? This could
crushes people in the running game. And
absolutely.
I know you went from just not being able to get anybody to picking up the number 2 player in the country at his position, maybe number 1, regardless, he's a top 30 player in the country.
Sure.
So OU's upgraded their staff. Dalen McCullough's come in for DeMarco Murray. That's going very well. Lamar Morgan has replaced Jay Valai seamlessly. So you basically upgraded with Dalen McCullough. I love DeMarco Murray. We all love DeMarco as a Sooner. But we can look at Dalen McCullough's resume objectively and say, OU upgraded at running back coach.
Yeah, I would say I think as a recruiter that he did a great job, but I would agree that when you look at their resumes and the players that have played for them, there's been more success from Dalen's guys, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a more yeah.
inarguable, to be honest with you.
It's
But
not.
that's no shade against you know.
And
That's
DeMarco
not
left
even any
him
shade against DeMarco.
because we saw in spring DeMarco left him 2 kick-ass backs and Jonathan Hatton and Walker. So, but you just objectively you just say that they increased. They got better at running back coach. And at tight end coach, I mean, Jason Witten looks like an absolute freaking home run. I mean, compared to what
dude.
it looks like a massive home run.
Cooper Witten. Oh, and Jason Witten too. No, Jason Witten. Yeah,
at tight end. I mean, Cooper. I mean, that's the thing.
They
Everyone's like,
haven't
oh,
recruited a good. I mean, they had the one good tight end, but that you could say Michael Hawkins really recruited him. And then he's no longer with the program though. So I mean, it fell through. But
that poor kid should never have reclassified. He needed to stay in school.
He needed another. Well, yeah, and he's got to grow up, and he hasn't really done anything so far at Louisville.
Well, he's at Grambling.
Oh goodness.
So
I didn't even know that. Know that.
Yeah, so I think from that perspective, it's a bad story. It's not a good story. He should have not reclassified and all that tale. So he's a cautionary tale about reclassifying. He certainly is. But OU's just, Jason Witten just is, that's a huge upgrade at tight end coach. So it's the best recruiting staff that I think OU's had maybe since Bob's first staff.
We didn't say DeMarco wasn't good. We didn't say that.
No. You completely misheard us. We said DeMarco was good. We're just saying objectively, when you compare resumes and production,
Yes.
Dalen McCullough is better. He's a more veteran coach with more experience and more diverse experience than DeMarco Murray. That's all we're saying. I mean, I don't know why.
He's also has more experience, though. I mean, his experience is longer, and
more diverse.
He didn't play. He was a good player in the league, but he wasn't for as long. And DeMarco didn't play in the league for very long either. But at the end of the day, nobody's listen. I'm not somebody who's. I mean, I like a lot of people question what was going on with DeMarco at some times and what was going on in the running back room. But I'm not one of the people that sat here and said that we had to fire him or that he sucked. I don't enjoy doing that.
That's not.
I don't enjoy trashing former greats of Oklahoma. I don't like that.
That's not what Jason and I. That's not what we mentioned. I'm just saying that it's obvious that if you just objectively look at their resumes and the production from the guys that they've coached, McCullough is an upgrade. McCullough would have, OU getting McCullough was an absolute steal. And obviously Kevin Wilson helped with that. Kevin Wilson helped with that because they have a long-time personal connection. And part of McCullough's background is the fact he had 2K running backs at Indiana, for crying out loud. Tevin Coleman went for 2,000 yards at Indiana. Then he went on to have a good career with the Falcons for a couple of years. So it's just an upgrade. I'm just saying that, Dalen McCullough is an excellent recruiter and an excellent developer of running backs. And that's an unarguable comment.
He also worked with Coach Reed, by the way.
It's an unarguable comment. I mean,
no, it is.
So that's an upgrade. So,
sure.
I
think we certainly know that you upgraded at the tight end coaching position.
And Lamar Morgan has done a great job taking what Jay Valai did.
Sure, absolutely.
And Jay Valai left him a stacked room,
and Jay was doing a great job. I'm not even hating on Jay. I mean, he produced back-to-back freshman All-Americans. So. But
Lamar Morgan,
you got a guy like Lamar Morgan that everybody knew was one of the best corner coaches in the country.
Yeah, Lamar Morgan coached Will Johnson to be an All-American and future first-round draft pick cornobback. So
absolutely.
I think,
and that's where we're at. And I'll just kind of is there anything else anybody else we need to talk about from this weekend, or something that you're expecting to come from this weekend before we kind of move into this next part of it and get out of here?
No, OU's just waiting. They lead for Yahila Wolfgram. They lead for Bodie Sparrow. They're just waiting for them to finish their official visits. There's an offensive lineman from Illinois who just visited Vandy called Corey Laga. If he was to choose OU, I think OU would take him as a 7th offensive lineman because Corey Laga can play left tackle. The guy they just got, Jackson Lawler, is a center or a guard. So I got one clip for you on Jackson Lawler for you. Okay, just a short clip that will just show you how athletic this kid is.
Okay.
If you could just tee that up, it's just 10 seconds. This is during his OSU visit. Okay, that's why it's an OSU background, but he was there before he got his OU offer and decided to commit to OU. So he's 6'4", 265, and he's in full pads. They're doing the whole photo shoot thing with him. That's pretty damn impressive for a 6'4", 270-pound kid.
I'll take it.
You know, to do in full gear to do a backflip, standing backflip. So he's there's a lot of potential with him. So we'll see which way he goes, but it's a nice pickup, and I love 6 offensive linemen. I love 6 offensive linemen. Restacking that offensive line room. Jim Nagy does not want to. OU's going to continue signing offensive linemen. Last comment. Jason, at the camp event that they've had over the last 2 weeks, they've had offensive line guys they've made offers to left and right.
Correct.
Big kids, top-rated kids, and it's just like it just looks. Everyone who was at the camp event. I had a source at the camp event. He's like, my God, the offensive line talent that they're bringing in on their camps just look different. They're just bigger, better athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So
look, I think it's clear, and that's what to me. I think that you're starting to see, and we've talked about this a lot in the past, that the way that they're doing things with the general manager position, having a true scouting staff, and obviously it's not like you had a problem recruiting before, but this is a better way of and a more, to me, it seems like everything's going a lot smoother. You've got multiple people that are working on these kids. So as far as they're identifying them and recruiting them. And then when you get the coaching staff involved in it, it just seems to be a lot more smooth in getting some of these guys in there. You're identifying guys that fit the culture, not just athletes, and they want to be at Oklahoma. That's why I'm just going to pull this up here. Blaylock just committed. Boom.
Do you want his film?
Please.
I've got it handy.
Do it.
Okay. Let me pull it up. And there's a clip in here where it's just unreal, his speed.
Oh, dude. Well, and again, we know what kind of player Torrey is, and we're excited about what he's going to be as well.
And you know what you're getting, right? Work ethic and everything else. I mean, the kid, absolutely. His brother is, his brother was a warrior last year. We certainly have given him enough credit. Guys, he's committed. It's on Twitter. The Hayes Fawcett's posted the graphic. You see that play right there. He's sticky. He's got good speed. You see him come up here, just flatten that wide receiver in the flat, RB in the flat. He's a good athlete.
He kind of reminds you a little bit with attitude-wise. He seems an awful lot like.
And causes the fumble there, punched the ball out, did the Peanut Tillman punch.
Cortland Guillory's type. He's not afraid to run with you.
You see how sticky he is there? Looks back for the ball, pass deflection. He's 6'1", 6'2", and again, he has legit sub 4.4 speed. Comes up to this play, blows it up, nearly gets the interception. Their tackle gets defensive tackle gets the interception instead. He's just sticky. Look at him on this slant play. He just blows it up. He's getting, he's really good, and there's a lot of ceiling here, a lot of runway for him to get better. So, but he's extremely athletic. So he's really athletic. It's a big pickup. It's a good pickup for the Sooners. He's underrated in my opinion, just like his brother was. yeah, I mean, he's got legit speed. And there's a play coming up. I'll show you guys where you can just see it. If I've got the controls to rewind it, I will. But you can just see him lined up here. See, he blows up this play right here. He's physical. He just does it. He's got the skills at cornerback, and we have cornerback coaches to take advantage of it. Overall, but he has a good. He had a good year. He's got A&M offers. A&M wanted him. Texas wanted him. He's got a good set of offers. He's got some development to do. Okay, here's the play. Watch this. The running back flies out to the left. So he's about 10 yards behind him. Look how fast he erases that. I mean, he erases basically a 10-yard gap. Do I have control of that? I think I do. Let's go back. So watch. Watch the running back get ahead of him. Right. So right here, he's still moving. Trent's still trying to adjust to it. He's on the opposite side of the field, and the running back has been running downhill already for 5 or 10 yards, right? From about right here, okay? And Trenton's just getting used to what's going on. So he's at least 5 yards behind this guy. And this running back should house this play. He's in full motion, and Trenton's just now trying to catch up. And just watch how fast he erased. That's a touchdown. That's a touchdown. If he doesn't do that, that's a long touchdown run by the running back. This play, it's not. I don't know why I said it's highlight reel. He smacks the wide receiver, so he's physical. So this is a good play. This is a punt coverage play. You see him flying downfield. You see his speed. You see him tracking, and you see him tackling that guy. That's a special teams play that he could do from day one, helping the Sooners. This play is like a 3rd and 10 or something like that, 3rd and 20. And
his speed is ridiculous.
Did you see that speed play, Jason?
Yeah, dude. Jesus.
I mean, that's legit game speed, difference making game speed.
Yeah.
So, that's Torrey, that's Trenton Blaylock. I'm only going to call him Torrey 100 times, just like I'm going to be calling Cooper Witten Jason Witten every time he makes a tackle. It's just going to be one of those things.
Stud, man. He's a stud. So and that's this. I mean, this comes to, we know the gear that Torrey has too. So yeah, he has another gear for sure. Absolutely.
And we know Derek is training those kids.
Yes.
Isn't
he already up to 217 or something like that?
Torrey is, yeah. He's gonna. I mean, that's the spring. We talked about that on Sooner Intel. That's going to be the interesting thing, is to be once we see Torrey and X-Rob, with some of the new running stuff we're doing and all that. So, but that's Trenton Blaylock. He gives OU, another cornerback in this class. I love the 4 guys they've got now. Good depth there. Gabriel Osborne is going to be an absolute demon at corner, and then Michael Davis and you could play Trenton at a small at OU. If OU can't find a Kendall Daniels type guy, then I think we're going to see 2 kind of cheetahs from them, right? We're going to see like a Sam linebacker, and then we're going to see a bigger corner, right? This could be what you end up doing with Trenton Blaylock easily. So he could easily be that. I mean, that's what if Mike Hawkins Jr. hadn't gone to West Virginia, he'd be in that mix at Cheetah right now.
You're talking about his brother.
His brother, yeah, Mike Hawkins. Malik Hawkins.
Malik. Yes.
I inverted them as I've been doing it. So yeah, I think you could do that with Trenton Blaylock. I think if you put, if he's at
again, his NFL pedigree from his dad, just like Torrey that we've talked about. His dad played in the league for a while, and great running back in his own right. Coming from, didn't he go from? He was Stephen F. Austin or something like that.
Yeah. So definitely a guy, and someone who knows what it takes the hard work it takes to excel and get to the NFL, and trusts the OU staff with both.
Eyes are always where they're supposed to be, aren't they?
Yeah, so I think he could have a big senior year. He could easily be a 4-star and probably should be a 4-star. I mean, his metrics, when you talk about like the NFL measurables that he's got long
Right.
arms. He's 6'1" or maybe just a shade under 6'2", and he
Well, and
runs at a
I think
legit
that people need to
4.4.
remember that this is a kid that got pissed off about that nobody had changed his
Yeah,
height and weight when he had sent it in. I mean, he's been to camps, he's been to
yeah,
places, and nobody had upped it from when he was a sophomore,
yeah. He was
right? And so he's grown a lot, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten better. But so a lot of these rankings, it takes a while. Obviously, sometimes they don't, they just don't get caught up on them or whatever. And for whatever reason, he was kind of flying under the radar. He won't be now. But are we? Do you care if he's a 3-star or a 5-star watching him play
no,
here? I would tell you
no,
don't.
no. But I would tell you that he's the fastest guy at Texas A&M's camp last summer, and
Right.
Texas wanted this kid. Benji and Colby can tell you. I mean, just look at the speed tracking that guy down. That guy is going to the end zone, and he stops him at the 25-yard line. I mean, that could be a game-saving tackle, right? We've seen that any number of times.
Absolutely.
You force a field goal instead of a touchdown. How many times have we seen that save an OU in a football game? So,
Listen, it's obviously something that look, if it fits well if Lamar likes him, if the staff likes him.
Well, Jay Valai liked him. Lamar Morgan likes him. Lake Dawson likes him. Jim Nagy likes him because you're not getting, we're not signing this kid because he's Torrey's brother. We're just not.
No, absolutely not.
So.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, I'll go ahead and just kind of go into this. I was watching Josh Pate last night, and I was running around doing some stuff and listening into it more than anything. And he's talking about the guys that are, or the teams that are, in his top 10 over the next 5 years, or his projected top 10 teams over the next 5 years. And again, look, I understand that you love the way that they're recruiting, and you've got Cody Campbell who's willing to do that, but you've got Texas Tech in there in his top 10. No Oklahoma, not only no Oklahoma, no Alabama, no Florida, no Michigan, no USC. I mean, none of these teams that have the ability and have recruited. Look, USC, say what you want. They had the number one class last year.
Yeah, they did, and we'll see what they actually do with that talent. But yeah,
I agree with that 100%. But
you could say that about every team on this list.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and then the same thing with J.D. PicKell. J.D. PicKell had him higher than Pate did, and his is on the 3-year or whatever. But we'll just pop that up there real quick. This is wild to me that knowing this and knowing what we know about the guys that are coming into the fold. These guys can play. You had 2 freshman All-American 2 seasons ago, even though they went 6 and 7, and then you had another freshman All-American in Cortland Guillory this year. Who's going to be your freshman All-Americans? You're liable to have one, right? These guys are coming in ready to play. Talk about Michael Boganowski and Reggie Powers. They've been playing since they were true freshmen.
And you've got you've got a defensive scheme that is clearly established, that is improving guys year over year. If you want to say, and we want to see a good year from your offense, I'd be like, okay, all right, I could buy that. If you just want to say OU's 11th on here, and you're like, I just need to see Arbuckle and the O line in the running game improve, I'd be like,
they didn't even bring them up. That's the point.
I mean, that we should. I mean, again, LSU. Okay. I mean, Lane Kiffin. Does Lane Kiffin last 5 years anywhere?
Yeah, I think he was in year 6 at Ole Miss, but it was topping out.
He was
trying to get him out of it.
So I mean, does he? I mean,
he was certainly topping out, no doubt.
And Ole Miss was a much more friendly landing spot than LSU in terms of expectations. I mean,
sure.
LSU is a volatile football program, and Lane is a volatile personality. I mean, this is just true. So I mean, he could win 3 national championships there, or he could be cashing out in 3 years. Neither result would surprise me. I mean, to me, Indiana. Okay, do you really? Is that a 5-year thing? Is that really? We'll see what Signetti
Well,
does.
I mean, and that's the same thing. It's like I said, you look at a Texas Tech team that played in a pretty light schedule last year. It's much lighter this year, right? And who's to say what's going to happen with the whole? I mean, we were just
Well,
talking about the whole project. Who's to say how that's going to affect everything moving forward? But I mean, shit, Tech didn't even score a point on the number 3 team in the Big Ten last year that got the shit kicked out of them the next week, even worse than Alabama did. Right, the week that same week that they lost,
I mean,
they don't even get a point on them, and you don't have to like see them kind of back this up a few times, win another Big 12 championship. I mean, they've won one in 28 years.
Well, and no offense, but the guys Tech picked up in the portal were excellent, right? But there's no hit. I mean, we think Joey McGuire. Everybody loves Joey McGuire as a coach and as a personality, but there's nothing that says their staff can develop the 5 stars that they're signing, and there's nothing that says they're going to even keep them. I mean,
sure.
This is true for all these programs, right?
Well, and if they're so heavy in the portal, you know how this is. I mean, look, all you have to do is look at Florida State to know that it doesn't always work.
Up, down, up, down. I mean, the guys they got last year, Hunter and Bailey, were awesome. Did they pick up Hunter and Bailey this year? I don't know. The Wake Forest guy they think is great, and
sure.
one of the defensive ends they got from like the MAC they think is great. But
sure.
Everybody kind of knew Hunter and Bailey were awesome. That was pretty clear. They were NFL guys.
But if you're not finding a way to get the guys that, and they don't get me wrong, they've recruited pretty well as far as they've gotten a couple 5 stars, and they've, they're talking about we're beating these guys out and blah blah blah. Still, you have to show that, and it takes a long period of time. Look at when you start looking at them in just compare them to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has pulled classes like this since Brent got there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, again, their offense last year was they played a weak schedule. They played a weak schedule to really, and it showed. It showed when they played Oregon.
But if you're saying that this is a top 5 program over the next 5 years, or a top 10 program over the next 5 years,
it's fantasy land. It's until they prove it. It's fantasy
talk.
I mean,
it's silly talk because you haven't proven that you can sustain this recruiting stuff, and you haven't proven that you can win shit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the LSU on here is a complete Lane Kiffin gamble. Okay, fine.
Sure, okay.
Sure. Indiana is a Signetti gamble. All right, he's got the belt.
He's got a national championship and another playoff. At least Signetti had to back it up. Now, is it long term going to be that way for Sig? I don't know. I know that he's a hell of a coach. I like I think he's innovative in what he's doing. But what are you going to do when they start poaching all your coaches? We'll find out.
Well, and if Josh Hoover is not what you thought, then
he's got turnover problems,
and they play a more difficult, not regular season schedule in the Big Ten.
It's more difficult than it was
previously than the last 2 years. So that's it.
Yeah.
To me, there's a top 5 on this list. After that, it's kind of pointless, right? The top 5 is Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame with the way Marcus Freeman is recruiting.
No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. If you want to go by,
I'll say Texas and tell you Texas.
Momentum, you have to go with Notre Dame. You have to go with even Oregon and Texas too. The where they're recruiting and stuff. Texas was in 2 straight, and they just missed out on the playoff last year. They've got a team that should make the playoff this year. Whether they will or not is neither here nor there.
They had a very difficult schedule. It's a
difficult schedule. We talked about that. I don't know that they make it in. I think it's going to be tough, and I think it could get now. If they don't make it to the playoff this year, are they a top 5 program or a top 10 program in the next 5 years? I don't know.
To me, you've again if you're taking the last 5 years, the previous 5 years as your benchmark, what they're going to do for the next 5 years, there are teams that
Tech
just
is the gripe, Benji. My only gripe is LSU. No, the only gripe, and I would tell you, Texas A&M. Don't no. I don't believe in Texas
A&M.
A&M either.
They're buying a big time class this year. So,
Cool.
but no, I'm just saying. So from that perspective, I get it. But have we seen sustained year over year great seasons from Texas A&M? We have not.
We have not.
We've never seen it. We've never seen it. It's never existed.
Ever seen it. And it's not like they've ever had a hard time getting players because they've always gotten players. They
RC,
you know.
RC Slocum was the last time in the 90s, the last time, and Cheryl, the last time they
won a conference championship. Yes.
Back to back. So they never they won one Big 12 championship in the 90s, knocking off K-State. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a fluky game. If Bama not being on here, I can buy that. I can buy that from a certain perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and again though, you also, people would say, and maybe he's not a fit for Alabama, and you know what? I'm not going to sit here and argue that point. I would tell you that they're still recruiting right near the top of everybody else, and they still have a roster.
They do. I mean, I could.
And that coach took a lesser roster at Washington to the national championship game a few years ago.
Beat Texas. So yeah, I mean, if they click,
2 years in a row he beat Texas.
Yeah, if they click, yeah, it could. But I mean, to me, there's a top 5 here, and then there's a top 10 behind it, right? And in the next, and really, I mean, Miami. I mean, we're majorly overreacting to one glorious season from the guy who couldn't coach. I mean, Cristobal was what, 6-7 2 years ago.
Their recruiting momentum, I don't necessarily have a problem with them being on here at all, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got good NIL talent.
And Darian Mensah, you got probably 2 years with him. I get it.
Well, they got 1 year with him. 1 year, he's gone. I say that, but
no, I don't think so. I think he's got 1 more year.
I think he's probably.
I mean, he doesn't have to have 1 more year.
You're right, but they could in theory. But I think, but they're not developing quarterbacks, right? So. They are reliant.
At the end of the day, if they're willing to, they're going to go out and get a guy that they believe in. And
right,
look,
but
I think recruiting momentum, you get a guy like Malachi Toney, who is that dude, right? And so I don't have a problem with them on here. I don't have a problem. Certainly Notre Dame and their momentum and what they're doing with Marcus Freeman. I mean, Oregon, I don't know why they've got Oregon so high, and Oregon has not done a ton. I mean, literally, they've beaten James Madison in the playoff, and then they beat a shitty Texas Tech team. I'm going to say it. They were a Texas Tech team that didn't have an offense, and they just got through a Big 12 schedule that, okay, cool. Their defense was good, and they beat a true freshman for the Big 12 championship game. They also lost to a pretty bad Arizona State team. So I'm not buying all this stuff on Texas Tech and everything. But so what about Oregon, though? Oregon, when did they have to actually do something? They won the Big Ten. Okay, cool. You won the Big Ten. You didn't have to beat Ohio State a second time to do it, right? You beat and barely beat Penn State, but you did. And then you got drummed by Ohio State after your bye week. And the shit kicked out of you. That game was over early.
Yeah, I mean, to me, obviously Oregon's recruited well. They've got
the shit kicked out of you by Indiana the next year.
Yeah, they've done really well, but I don't know. To me, Dan Lanning is a mystery in big games in his coaching decisions. He seems odd. He kept Texas Tech in that game last year, sort of, even though it was clear it was over. I think but I'm fine with them being in. If you want to say they're a top 5 program, I'm fine with that. But beyond that,
Oregon,
if you want to say that,
but J.D. PicKell's got them at number 1. I'm like, what? Why?
It's Ohio State, it's UGA, and then you want to say Texas based upon the last 3-4 years. I got no problem arguing that with their base and their coaching staff. I don't like the Muschamp thing, but we'll see if I'm wrong about that. But the LSU thing I think it's wildly volatile. What could happen, and adding Orgeron to the mix isn't helping. A&M prove it to me 3 years in a row, and I don't know how you think your offense is going to be better with a brand new offensive line and losing NFL wide receivers, tight ends, and everything else with a quarterback who I think
and a quarterback that has a brand new offensive coordinator that's never been one.
It has a Seth Luttrell, reeks of Seth Luttrell to it.
Reeks of Seth Luttrell, yes. And look, I think that was a bad mistake. And look, and here's the thing: it's if you're going to have the question about Brent, then you should have the same question about Elko. Defensive guy, his offenses have been even though he's had studs, they've kind of been off and on good. I mean, Oklahoma had a great offense. The Levy's last year, they were fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
top 5 in scoring and total yards. But that didn't mean that, if we're going to question Brent Venables and when he's got an elite defense and and they're recruiting the way that they are, then why are you not questioning Texas A&M, who has been 8-4 their entire existence?
And their quarterback their offense was terrible against Miami in that playoff game.
Awful. Yeah, they have 3 points.
Awful at home. And I know it was windy, whatever other. But
that means if you don't have a quarterback that has a real arm, if the wind affects it, you ain't got a real arm.
I mean, they were lucky not to. I mean, and they also have had. They had a favorable.
We talk about it on here, Benji, all the time. We've said their schedule was easy, and when they played somebody after the Notre Dame game, which they caught a break in that Notre Dame game to win it.
The dropped extra point by the lacrosse player.
Sure, and they missed a big time. I mean, there was a big miss of a penalty that should have been called, but that's neither here nor there. They won that game, but after that, who did they play? It was all the bottom half of the league. The rest of the season,
LSU the
LSU game. Well, and LSU wasn't one of the better football teams last year. They didn't have an offense that could feed the starving birds,
and they completely imploded. LSU imploded in that game. I mean, they just gave it away. So we'll see about A&M.
And then they got the shit kicked out of them by Texas again, and then they looked god awful at home against Miami.
Yeah, I mean, So I don't know. A&M, that to me, again, I think there's to me the other thing I think, Jason, is that the NIL and everything else has leveled college football to where it used to be 5 programs had a chance to win a national championship every year, right? During the Clemson, Bama, Ohio State kind of run, that kind of run from 2015, 2020. LSU obviously had that great team that one year. There were probably 5 teams that legitimately could have won the national championship. I think heading into this season, I think you legitimately have 10 to 15 teams that get on a heater and could find themselves deep in the semis.
Well, deep in the playoffs, winning the Natty, I think there's probably 8, 7, 8.
Yeah, but again, even that's like double what it was 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking about like a top, we were so used to top 10s, and I think it's really.
I think it's weird that, I think it's weird that you have so few people that are talking about Oklahoma in this light, or even Michigan, who won a few years ago, and they've got, Kyle Whittingham, as good of a coach as he is, actually has the ability to bring in some of the best players in the country. He's not going to put a team on the field. What are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
You've got a program. Tennessee was in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Tennessee, there's another program. I'm a big believer in Summerall. He's never had a season anywhere that he didn't have at least 9 wins. And
Florida's dropping cash and recruiting left and right.
And they already had a roster.
I've got a pretty. We'll see. Again, to me. Tell me you've got a top 5. I'd be like, okay. After that, there's really 8 to 10 programs if they can fix their liability, they can make a run, right? Because if If you heard the Oklahoma breakdown last night with Kevin Wilson, and Kevin Wilson said,
Loved it, by the way.
I know
Shout out to the guys, Teddy
that
and
was
Gabe.
that was
Great,
that was that
great,
was
great show.
heroin into your veins, right? With what he was talking
Yeah.
about, that
Yeah.
you know.
Yes,
But
it
when
was.
Kevin Wilson said, "It's my job to help OU have a great offense that can score 30 points against great defenses," that's what I'm here. If OU fixes their offensive stuff and can run the ball and has a better O line and has more weapons for Mateer, and Mateer isn't required to play hero ball and he keeps within himself, with that defense, and that's not even the fact that people don't really know who Danny Okoye is or Michael Boganowski, or Nigel Smith or any of the guys we have coming, yeah, I mean, OU could be in that mix for a national championship. So we'll see, but we'll see. I mean, did we? We're as hard as this on the Sooners on our shows as anybody, right, Jason?
Absolutely.
In terms of what they need to do. So,
all right, and that's what I'm just saying, like, if I'm not even saying you had to have Oklahoma in this top 10, not necessarily.
It should have been in the discussion.
But if you're not going to have them in the way that they're recruiting, they just went to the playoff. It looks, I mean, the way that they're doing things is just seems much more clean. Like the program is running at a high level. The offense, obviously, you have to see it, equate to what we think that it should equate to, and that Kevin Wilson talked about that a lot last night. We got to be a lot better, but you can't tell me that this program isn't going to be better than Texas fucking Tech.
I don't.
Same with Alabama.
Yeah, neither of those.
Same with Michigan.
I mean, let's just be honest. If you moved OU or Alabama into the Big 12 for a season, that basically the Big 12 says, "Hey, we need a team," and we need a team. There's no way OU wouldn't be the number one pick in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
Even with all the question marks, Jason, that defense would run through
they would roll through the Big 12.
Alabama probably would. Tennessee probably would.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's not the same shit.
Would A&M?
We know this. We know it's not the same thing.
A&M probably would. I would at least favor them to win the Big 12.
Sure.
If you moved them
No,
over.
and I think talent-wise, A&M's there. It's whether or not they can get over their lifelong belief that like Okie Light, of being second rate.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Jason, I need to bounce. Hopefully, I've given you enough recruiting stuff and
appreciate it, man.
Everybody on here. We'll be back. We're doing a recruit intel show tonight with Chris Griffin. If you need to get your recruiting fix in a little heavier, if you're following my channel, you also know I'm doing daily recruiting shows. I'm getting great response there. Thanks to all of the Jason subscribers who've joined me over there and are enjoying my daily shows. Jason, thanks so much for getting my message out there and spreading my stuff. I really appreciate it.
Love doing it, man. Love to do it and love to see you killing it, man. And I mean, guys, if you're not already going over there and doing it, you should be. He's got his fingers on the pulse there. He's going to have a lot of stuff that some of these other guys don't. And look, you're going to get it straight from him. We don't bullshit around about whether or not his record on predictions is a lot better than Parker Thune's. I'll tell you that.
on that comment, I will go ahead and duck out. Jason, have a good day. Great show. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Chris, for coming in with us as always. We appreciate you.
Bye.
See you, man. Yeah, I had to take that little shot. But no, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, make no mistake about it. It's funny to me that neither one of these guys had Oklahoma, and not even just Oklahoma, or Michigan, or Bama, or Florida, in the top 10, but both of them had Texas Tech. Like, come on, man. Come on. It's just wild stuff. What's up there, Chuck? Good to see you. I'm going to get it over the Parker Thune stuff. Man, what's he going to do to me? What's he going to do? What's anybody going to do to me? I don't give a shit. You guys already know that. Could give a shit. or any team anywhere, step on the field and prove it over and over and over and over. Facts. And at the end of the day, I mean, which one of those, who on that coaching staff really has you believing in Texas Tech? Because not for nothing, go back and look at the record for Tech going up until last year. They never had more than 8 wins. That's pretty standard for Tech. Sure, they got a bunch of good players. They spent a shit ton of money. Cool. But they didn't have to play the same kind of schedule. They're not playing a tough non-con schedule. We know that the coaching staff at Oklahoma, pretty legit, especially that defensive staff. And then you start talking about the additions that they've made on the offensive staff. Look, the jury's still out for me on Arbuckle, but we know what Kevin Wilson can do. We've seen it. He did it again whenever he was at Ohio State. Their offense wasn't a problem when he was at Indiana either as the head coach. That wasn't really the problem at Tulsa either. It's just crazy to me that we're supposed to just believe in a program like Tech, who, and for all intents and purposes, probably should miss the playoff this year because they're so hell-bent on Brendan Sorsby. And if this is the kind of culture that you're running, that's going to catch up to you eventually anyway. Mm-hmm. Barely. Never sweat Taco Tech. Exactly. I'm not going to believe in Texas Tech until I see them do more. Multiple years in a row. They replaced a lot of those players from last year. Yeah, they went heavy in the portal again. Cool. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't. Ask Florida State. It doesn't always work out. You can spend all that money. It doesn't always work. So, too much credit just for cash. And like they're the only team in the fucking country that spends money on players. I just think it's hilarious. And again, we're ready to just write off Bama. Just write them off. They don't care anymore about their program. They're not going to make sure that they get the money that they need to get the players that they need to get. They're not in the hotbed of the recruiting in the SEC with a fan base that demands excellence. Come on. And with a coach that's been in the national title game, beaten Sark. He's got a 2-0 record against Sark. He's 2-1 against he's 2-1 against Kirby Smart. He never lost to Dan Lanning. Beat Lincoln Riley. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, write him off. Your boys have never beaten him. Benji. Whatever, bro. Go get his shine box. You're hilarious. I'm just saying. I believe it about a team like Texas Tech over Alabama and Michigan and Oklahoma and Florida and whoever else when I see the long withstanding getting it done. I don't even know how much I love the idea that Indiana's so high in both of those, but they at least won the national championship. Obviously, he knows what the hell he's doing. Oof. Yes, it would. So what? How many first rounders were on your team, Benji? How many first rounders were on your team? At least that many. At least that many. Were there not? Xavier Worthy, Bijan, A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell didn't go in the first round, though, did he? He got in trouble. He would have been a first rounder. Stop it. Yes, there were first rounders on that team. If they turn into first rounders, they're first rounders. Stop it. What a clown. What a clown statement to make, dude. Stop it. Stop it. The first year that he beat him, Bijan and Roshan were on that team. Along with Xavier Worthy. There's two. Worthy and Bijan were both first rounders, were they not? What about your first round left tackle? Stop talking shit. He was on the team that lost to them in the Texas Bowl. He was. Yes, he was. Same football team that they got beat by the next year. And you had more first rounders on your team that year in the CFP. Stop it. Just stop. You're such a liar, dude. You're such a liar, bro. Oh my God. Quit lying. Oh, stop it.
Shut up! Little dumbass.
If you take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the fuck up.
Benji. Yeah, they were first rounders. That means that you're going to tell me that you didn't have a more talented football team than that Washington team did. Shut up. Stop it. Just stop. Well, it'd be pretty likely, and I think he would take it with the money. I mean, yeah, I think so. If they continue to not get it done, Lincoln's their boy. They continue to not get it done with Joey McGuire. Kenny Dillingham at USC. That's smart. Yeah, dude. That could be a monster. Kenny's the man. Yeah, epic. Just stop, bro. Just stop. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He's got a first-round quarterback right now, a possible first-round wide receiver. They've got elite secondary players that are possible first-rounders. They're not. Stop acting like Alabama doesn't still have a lot of talent. You're just talking stupid shit now. You're just talking stupid shit now. And just because Texas is
soft as baby shit
doesn't mean that they don't have the talent. And you should not. If you want to talk all that shit, talk it. But Kalen DeBoer has proven to be a better coach than what Sark has been. End of story. Get out of here. 5-minute timeout for Benji. Lincoln Riley to Texas would be funny. It'd be fun. What we didn't get to talk about last week, and I'll end it on this. When his Josh Pate's fantasy first round matchups in the CFP, and the main one was Oklahoma hosting USC in the opening round. Texas, the other one would have been Texas hosting Texas Tech, obviously because of all the shit that's been talked between them for the last, over this offseason. I think it'd be great. The idea that SC is going to come into Norman and win the most toxic environment probably in football history, I don't think so. He hasn't shown us he can win games against good teams at all. But he's gonna come into Norman and win? Come on, man. Come on, Josh. Come on. Silly talk. Yeah, he was. I heard him. I saw him doing that. As of last fall, Bama was number 2 in team talent. Right. Roster talent. Mm-hmm. No, Benji got timed out. He'll be back in a second, I'm sure. It's been a while since I gave him a timeout. I have to do it because he's a Texas fan every once in a while, especially when he's talking silly. But, Lincoln Riley being on the hot seat and all that stuff. And I think that they probably have a better opportunity of making the playoff than they have in a while. And even though they have a tougher schedule than they've had really since he's got there. Certainly in the last couple of years, but really since he's got there. Even with Notre Dame being off of it. But I'd be surprised. Again, I'm not buying Texas Tech. I think that BYU and I think K-State is going to be resurgent this year. I think that K-State lost a bunch of close games last year, and a lot of it probably had to do with Ireland. And whatever was going on with, Avery didn't look the same. They got rid of that coaching staff. I like Avery Johnson a lot. I like the guys that they brought in, and I think that K-State's the real deal. I also think that, look, don't be surprised if West Virginia makes a run. Rich Rod has put really good teams on the field in the past in West Virginia, and he's been successful again. Obviously, he didn't get it done at Michigan. You can't get it done at Arizona for very long. He's won everywhere else. If they're better on defense than they should be, and Michael Hawkins is damn sure an upgrade from what they had, I think he's going to show out. I at least think that they're in the top 3 or 4. They may not have enough this year to win the whole thing, but watch them screw up some people's seasons. Watch them do it. Kotelnicki's back at Kansas. I don't know. Lance Leipold's a hell of a coach. Coach Prime, never mind. I'm just fucking around. Coach Dillingham, look, I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. I don't think that Joey McGuire is. I know that Kalani Sitake is. And they play like grown-ass men. And they were young last year and still went 11-1 in the regular season. That's your favorite. In my mind. Yeah. Yeah, I knew you would hate that. I figured I'd hear something from you, Dave, on Rich Rod. Listen, I didn't say I was a fan of his. But I'm damn sure a fan of Michael Hawkins, and he's going to blow up there. Pat White 2.0. Hell yeah. Yes, he is. They've got good coaches. They've got some good coaches. Eric Morris is a good coach. I think he's got, I mean, look, I don't believe that you can take North Texas's, the best of North Texas's roster that didn't win the AAC and really compete for the Big 12 in his first year. But I think offensively, they're going to be pretty good. I think they probably top out at about 6 wins, 7 wins, maybe. But yeah, watch. Hey, you think it ain't going to be crazy there? If Brendan Sorsby were to be on that Texas Tech team when they get to Stilly, you think that ain't going to be nuts in there? Kalani Sitake is legit. I'm just busting your chops because you're disagreeing with me and you're a Texas fan. That's all. I think Houston, listen, I think so too. And I think there's a lot of pressure. Whoever's playing quarterback, if Hammond's back, because it doesn't sound like he's going to be necessarily ready for week 1. They probably don't need him for week 1. My guess is you're going to need to ramp him up for when he does play, especially if he's going to play against Houston. But who's to say? They're the real deal. And I mean, Houston gave him all kinds of a game last year. He's a hell of a coach. Yeah. Listen, I think so. I think that they've put a lot of pressure on that team too, right? I think they've put a lot of pressure on that team with just what's been going on in this last couple of weeks. That's why I just think it was such an awful, awful decision on their part all the way around. And short-sighted as all hell. Because, forget about the fact that we're talking about the integrity of college football as a whole and your league as a whole. But you've doubled down, tripled down on all this shit over, and when you could have continued to be the darling of the underlings, the teams that all around the country that are, this is what we can do. Look at what they did at Texas Tech. All you had to, and just, you would have stayed everybody's favorite underdog. Now you're everybody hates you now. And it's a lot of, that's a lot of heat to take for kids. And if they're taking that heat because of Brendan Sorsby, how much longer are they going to be okay with him being there? That's the question I want to know. And if you're Will Hammond, why are you even still there? They're showing that, to me, they're showing Will Hammond how much they think about him, which ain't much. Crazy shit. Yep. He was a terrible fit at Michigan. Yeah, he was a terrible fit. They didn't have the type of players that could even run the type of offense that he wanted to run. But it wasn't fit for him. He didn't exactly get... I think that... And he almost... People don't remember this, but he was going to take the Alabama job the year before. And then didn't. That might have worked out pretty well. It might not have. Obviously they did pretty well with Nick Saban, so I'm just saying. Rich Rod, I remember the ass whipping that they put on Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl that year. Shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They weren't exactly that great before he got there, bro. Sure. Yeah, you get some good talent guys, and look, for Oklahoma fans are not happy with the way Zach Alley and the left and all that kind of stuff, but He knows what he's doing. He worked under Brent. They're going to be better on defense. He's worked with Rich Rod and done really well as a defensive coordinator. Yeah, Hawkins is the starter from what I understand. He's killing it. Yeah, I think Neil Brown was a pretty good coach. I would agree with that. I think that things don't always work out, man. Dana Holgerson didn't exactly leave it perfect for him. You know? All right, guys. Appreciate everybody coming in. Let me know what you think about all of this. Obviously, again, Texas Tech looks like this thing's going to be heating up a little bit more over the next week or so. We may find out something from this meeting. We may not. But apparently with them, they're going to be looking for an injunction against the Texas AG and Texas Tech from being able to keep them from doing their job and what's within their bylaws. And so this isn't going away unless it goes away because Tech allows it to go away on their own, which they should do, by the way. But let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about the top 10 rankings of J.D. PicKell and Pate. You know, I'm going to bust their chops about it. I think it's ridiculous, but that's just me. Appreciate everybody coming in. We'll see you on make sure you come back tonight for Recruit Intel with K. Chris and Mr. Mason. I'll be back Wednesday night for the Top 12 Plus show with a special guest. Not sure who it's going to be yet, but I'm working on a couple of different ones. Maybe we get Maze and Blue, Maze Madman. I'm not sure. But we'll have somebody in here Wednesday night for the Top 12 Plus show. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share us with your friends. We'll see you on the next one. We'll see you on the next one.